What's going on YouTube? For the longest time, people shopping in the compact crossover segment have by and large picked between a few of the top options. However, brands like Hyundai are increasingly getting people's attention with flashy designs and tons of standard equipment. So today we wanted to explore that by pitting the stalwart Honda CR-V against the newest Hyundai Tucson. At the end, we will see if it's the best choice to choose the OG or go for the alternative. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we figure out if it's best to have a bold or italic H on the front of your next CUV, let's quickly skim through the trims and pricing of these two. Starting with the new CR-V, we have the new trim added to the lineup for 2024, the Sport L. This model comes standard with loads of equipment, and all in rings in at $39,630. For the Hyundai Tucson, their trims are spaced out substantially, so the closest trim to the CR-V Sport L is the Limited. It has a lot of value packed in, as expected, but the total price will be a bit higher at $40,800. Now this is going to be an objective comparison. We've done our best to weigh the points awarded throughout in major and minor categories, but at the end of the comparison we will sum up with our thoughts and account for that small price difference. With that being said, let's get into the meat and potatoes. So as you walk up to these two models, you will immediately notice that they have vastly different design philosophies. The new CR-V has gone with a more conservative design for this generation, while the Tucson is one of the more unique crossovers in the compact segment. Your design preferences will likely depend on how much you like to stand out, so we're not going to wade into that. But we will get into the front lighting, which is an extremely distinct layered DRL that is part of the grille in the Hyundai. The headlights themselves are in a separate housing and are projector LEDs, while the CR-Vs are slightly less premium reflector LEDs. Neither of them have fog lamps. Continuing to the sides, both models continue to grow with each successive generation, and are now over 180 inches long. A noteworthy difference is that the Tucson has 1 inch larger wheels, at 19s versus 18s. Heading out back, again the overall exterior themes couldn't be more different, with tons of angles and lines in the Tucson and a conservative look in the CR-V. Features-wise, we also have some differences. The Tucson protects its rear wiper under the spoiler. They both have partial LED taillight clusters, and only the CR-V has dual exposed exhaust outlets. For those of you interested in towing small trailers, the Tucson can handle up to 2,000 pounds versus 1,000 in the CR-V. Now checking out some of the individual odd and end features, both of their mirrors have heating and blind spot monitoring. And both models come standard with all the available active safety features no matter which trim you choose. Another difference is warranty coverage. Hyundai continues to offer the longest warranty in the business, and they also extend complimentary maintenance coverage an additional year beyond what Honda includes. But you will spend far more time on the insides than gazing at the exteriors, so let's get into that. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
So approaching both models, you will find smart entry systems with remote start as expected. The Tucson's fob has a couple extra buttons because it has the smart park system, which allows you to remotely pull the vehicle into and out of tight parking spots. Once you open up the doors, again, you will find designs that are starkly different from each other. The seats, though, are mostly the same, both having real leather, 10 ways of power adjustment, memory, and heating. The Tucson also includes ventilation, which is unavailable on the CR-V. Once we climb inside the cabins, we can check out the broad category of material quality. In this area, they feel very similar, with a nice mixture of soft touch plastic, leatherette, and piano black surfaces. Both also feel solid to the touch, so we will declare this section a tie. Once you fire the two crossovers up, you'll find a half digital and half analog gauge cluster on the Honda, but a 10-inch full digital cluster on the Tucson. In addition to extra design customizations, the Tucson screen allows for their blind spot camera system to work, which is something Honda pioneered but no longer offers. Neither of them will offer head-up displays. Pulling back to the steering wheels, both are leather wrapped but not heated on the Sport L CR-V. Moving on to the important aspect of interior storage. Even though Hyundai gives Honda a run for their money, it's still the CR-V that comes out on top as usual. Its center console is the largest in the class, and its center bin is also larger than the Tucson's as well. Taking a look at the shifters next, CR-V has a traditional one, and the Tucson a push-button one. Regardless of your preference, when you go into reverse, you will probably notice the lack of a 360-degree camera system in the CR-V, which is something not offered on this new generation. Moving up to the middle of the dashboard, both have dual-zone automatic climate controls, although the controls are harder to use touch-capacitive ones on the Tucson. And before we talk about the displays, let's go ahead and sample the audio systems. While they're both 8-speaker sound systems, the Tucson's is a Bose at this price point. Alright, so now back to those displays. These upper-end versions both come with the largest displays offered in the lineup, 9 inches in the CR-V and 10.25 inches in the Tucson. That gives the Hyundai about 12% more screen real estate. Outside of size though, it's the Honda that has the advantage. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, while the Tucson still requires you plug into a wire to access those systems. As we wrap up the front of the cabins, there are still several differences left. Both models have auto-dimming mirrors, but only the Hyundai has the built-in HomeLink universal garage door openers. Additionally, the new generation of CR-V has opted not to add a panoramic sunroof, which is something that the Tucson does include. Now heading to the rear areas, things begin to heat up even more. If you know anything about the CR-V, it's probably that it is very large on the inside, and this new generation continues that trend. The thing is though, the Tucson has grown a ton as well, so rear space is nearly identical now. One advantage when it comes to rear seat comfort is that the CR-V seats recline further than the Hyundai's, with 8 levels of recline for max comfort. As far as other features back here, both models have rear vents and 2 USB-C ports for charging devices, but only the Tucson has heated rear seats. Moving out back, the two crossovers have hands-free power tailgates, and once they open up, the rear seat situation repeats. CR-V technically is still the largest option in the segment, but with both the seats in place and folded, it is less than a 5% advantage required to score a point. Alright, we're done with the interiors now, so let's take this fight out to the streets. It's very hard to beat the features Hyundai stuffs into their vehicles, but let's talk about the powertrains now. All of the sport trim levels of the CR-V now come standard with the Honda's 2-motor hybrid system. This system uses a 2-liter 4-cylinder combined with electric power to make 204 horsepower. The Tucson also offers a hybrid model, but it is quite a bit different, with a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder forming the foundation, and 226 total system horsepower. While the Hyundai does have more power, it's the Honda that is actually quicker to 60. Alright, and there we are above 60 miles per hour with this Tucson hybrid.
Really nice.
So, as you can see, acceleration is actually pretty swift in this, and that's because it does have a pretty substantial advantage in power over the standard Tucson. So, with this model, you do have a completely different powertrain. So, it's got a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, plus your battery and electric motor components, and that's all together making 226 horsepower, which is up from 187 with the standard gas model. And there we go, up to 60 miles per hour. So with this hybrid powertrain, they're obviously not making any changes to this for just the second model here. This was just fully redesigned. So that means we've got that all new 2-motor hybrid system. Like we were mentioning in the spec dump, the whole system works together, of course, as you'd expect, with 2 electric motors, a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine as well, for 204 horsepower, 247 pound-feet of torque. Those are good numbers for this class of vehicle. I think acceleration feels perfectly adequate. It's not going to be like, super powerful or anything like that. Now, these hybrid systems are quite different from each other in terms of engineering. And the choice of transmission is why we see the more powerful model accelerate slower. Unlike all the rivals, including the CR-V, Hyundai uses a 6-speed automatic transmission instead of a CVT. This gives it a more traditional feel that most people prefer, but I will point out that the Honda has a shift simulation to somewhat replicate that feel. Now, if you're paying attention, you're probably noticing one aspect that's very interesting for a hybrid model, and that's the fact that you're hearing gear shifts, and that's because this actually does have a transmission, a full automatic transmission. So this is a 6-speed automatic, and of course that's unusual because most hybrids, as in like 99% of them, come with a CVT. I think that's actually a pretty cool advantage for this model versus all the competition, because you do have that more traditional feel from... So we're on a flatter surface there. It gives you a little bit of better perspective on the acceleration. Now, you're probably also noticing as we went up to speed there that we were actually kind of going through some gears.
Yeah.
Because of the way that this hybrid is set up, you don't really have a traditional CVT, but Honda does call this an eCVT just because of the way that it performs. They also have a shift simulation programmed in. Once the engines have quieted down after acceleration, and you've made it up to highway speed, you're probably wondering how quiet they are. In our sound decibel readings, we found that the Tucson hybrid was quieter, and is likely using more sound deadening materials throughout.
$54.7, and very, very impressive. 57 decibels even. Before we started slowing down there is what our sound level reading was sitting at.
Now, as far as other driving characteristics, neither of them is designed to be sporty per se, but Honda bakes in more emphasis here. The CR-V exhibits nice body control and steering that is fast, accurate, and not too light. They both also ride very nicely and absorb all but the largest road imperfections, but we would give the slight edge to the CR-V with its smaller wheels. Before we wrap up here, I just want to mention one more thing. We don't really have any good corners to go around or anything, but I do want to mention that the CR-V remains having one of the better steering setups in the segment. We have a nice responsive setup. As you can see, you get that immediate reaction as soon as you turn off center, and the body control is pretty well maintained. But the ultimate test of a hybrid system's worth is what kind of fuel economy it achieves, and both far exceed their traditional gas counterparts. They are both rated at 37 mpg combined. The Tucson did not quite achieve that in our week-long test, but we look forward to testing out the CR-V's real-world mpg over a week very soon. But now that we've gone through everything, let's return to the price difference and account for that. The Tucson in this test rang in $1,170 more expensive than the CR-V, meaning the Honda will get a half point. So there you have it. The Hyundai Tucson is our objective winner. But let's talk about who should be your winner. Well, the Tucson should be your selection. Obviously, as you can tell through this video, if you prefer having the most possible features available. The Tucson is just packed with all these extra little goodies that brands like Honda just aren't including, and most other rivals aren't as well. The other thing is just those extra luxury levels that you might be looking for. So the things like the panoramic sunroof, the 360 camera, stuff like that, that the ventilated seats that the CR-V is not offering if you want that.
Yeah, and the CR-V should still be your winner if you value the maximum amount of space possible. The CR-V is still the biggest in the segment. It is just very practical, and when it comes to storage and all of your cargo solutions. Additionally, it does have that faster 0 to 60 time, and it does also have better handling. Hondas really like to breed in that Honda DNA into every vehicle, including the CR-V, so it does drive better than the Tucson. And of course, probably the biggest reason you'd pick a CR-V is Honda's reputation for reliability over something like a Hyundai Tucson.
Right, and we want to now know in the comment section which way you guys would go. Our sense, based on the comments that we've seen in the past, is that a lot of you guys will be weighing the extra features versus that extra layer of security and reliability that you trust. So let us know which way you would go in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed watching this comparison, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help give us the chance to make more of these comparison videos as well as our full reviews. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you are a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support because you do make this all possible. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.